everybody, I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art and Science, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to do is to talk about finding some good deals on watches by following good movements. The idea that your best movements have to be in-house isn't necessarily true. There are a lot of really excellent movements that are not in-house, and in fact, in some cases, I would say they're even better than what would be a typical in-house movement. So let's get started and take a look. Now, the first movement I want to talk about, or movement-making company, is called Voiture Manufacture Fleurier. This particular movement is called the VMF 3002, and a lot of different really tip-top and very expensive companies use Voiture movements, including Parmigiani. Parmigiani is owned by the Sandoz Family Foundation, and they have a vertical organization, and part of that vertical organization is Voiture Manufacture. So you're getting a really top-rated movement from Voiture. Okay, now this particular movement is a tungsten mass. It's mounted on a ceramic ball bearing, unidirectional winding. There's an interesting, I bidirectional and unidirectional. I know there's an argument that one is better than the other. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure, but this one is unidirectional. It's got variable inertia with gold inertia blocks, 4 Hertz, flat balance, chronometry, double barrel, rapid rotation in series. Okay, so that's the basic. I mean, this, by the way, too, is their least expensive. This is the bottom of the line, not the top. And yet it's really an excellent movement. Okay, now the first one, we're going to take a look at a watch company you probably never heard of. I hadn't heard of it either. So I started looking for watches that use Voiture movements. And the company is called BIE Watches. And here are two models. One's called the Emperor, the other one's called the Number. And they're both the fine silver $9.99, red enamel on the one on the left. It has red and some different colors as well. And then the one on the right is called the Numbers. That's uses both of them use the Grand Fou, the big flame heated for their enamel. But this is the Numbers has something that's called Chamblevé, which is a type of Grand Fou, and they're really all of these little, I guess, little like metal pawns that they put the enamel in. So it's really sort of very interesting. The one on the left I found was listed as €7,735. And the one on the right was 7,900 pounds. It's just, I was just sort of hunting around for different ones. So that'll give you an idea of what these two watches cost. Now these next two are by Peter Speak. It was, I think it was at one time he Speak Marin. And Peter Speak Marin made both of these watches. He had a whole series of them. Then he left the company. The company gobbled him up, or something like that. By the way, too, if you don't know who he is, there's this fantastic site called the Naked Watchmaker. Not only is it what he does, basically he undresses these movements and takes them all apart and shows you what's inside of them. And you can learn a lot about movements. He also has a video series that you can watch, and it's sort of all about watchmaking and so forth. Really top rated on both of them. Now here are a couple of his watches. The one on the left is called the Serpent Calendar. The serpent refers to the serpentine hand, You can see a little wiggly hand. That's a serpentine hand, and it's used for it's a hand date. The one on the left. Now that one I found on Chrono 24. It was only $5,000, and then again it has this Vaucher movement in it. The one on the right is called the Velshita, and it's 42 millimeters in titanium. Now, one of the things about the Velshita, there are more than one different style. They have different dials on them. You can really find some neat stuff. Both of these watches are, by a top watchmaker, and so anyway, they're affordable, especially that serpent calendar. One I might go grab. I really like it. Now, some other ones. There's beside the 3002 caliber 3002. There are other ones, and this is Benjamin Chi. Has the Benjamin Chi Horology Vaucher watch collection. Now, in it, he has this Vaucher 5401/33. It's a 3 hertz movement. And you can see on the back, it's got that little golden rotor in it. So it's a micro rotor. And so you end up with a very clean dial on that. Well, a clean back too, so you can see more of it. He does have rather big plates on it and bridges, but still, it's really a very interesting watch. By the way, too, one of the things that a micro rotor will do is that it'll make your watch center. Really classy looking watches, and Benjamin Chi stuff. So he's another one who uses Vaucher. Okay, moving right along, we end up with, I'm switching over to another really top-notch movement maker. And this is Kone SA. Now these are, this particular movement they have is called the C102. Now there are a lot of different ones that they have. But this one is their sort of entry-level one. And Jean-Francois Mojon is the guy who headed it up. You can see that picture down there. These were identified as the 5 top watchmakers. And there's Philippe Dufour, Jean-Francois Mojon, Helio Papi. Standing behind the couch is Carol Forestier Casapi, and then on the right is my favorite, Jean-Marc Viderec, who we've worked with through Agenor. Anyway, this particular one, it's very much available for those who are thinking, well, gee, maybe we can get a bunch of guys together and make our own watch. Now, if we look at the watches by that are what are called Krod Partnerships, these are a sample. Cyrus, I think there's several ones that Cyrus works with Krod. This particular Hermes, I know Hermes works with Vaucher. They own 25% of it. They also work with Agenor. And the thing I like about Hermes is that they really go for the really tip top. And so here you have what's identified as a fashion house, and it is. But also they are very, very top notch as far as horology is concerned. They won, I think this particular one won a Grand Prix award. They've won more than a single Grand Prix award. Chopek, here's one by Chopek, also with a Krod movement in it. Now on the bottom, one that surprised me is the Urban Jurgensen chronometer detent escapement, a P8. The P8 movement is one I am hoping that Kari Voutilainen keeps with the Urban Jurgensen. I think it was originally created by, this particular one for Urban Jurgensen was by Derek Pratt, when he was with Urban Jurgensen, one of the top watchmakers ever. He and George Daniels were great friends and communicated a lot. So anyway, another one is by MB&F. MB&F is made more really fantastic watches. This one, the Legacy Machine #1 is one, again with a Krod in it. So this again is that you can find some amazing watches. Now these tend to be fairly expensive. I think, however, you can find, I think, some good buys on some Cyrus, Hermes, Chopek, Urban Jurgensen. I don't know. Same thing with MB&F. Both of them would be. I have one Urban Jurgensen, but boy, I tell you that the 10 Escape would be a cool one to have. Okay, moving right along. This is sort of another little turn we're taking. If you find a movement, find a good movement, sometimes you can find that movement is a base movement for some very, very expensive watches. And so if you find sort of the base for it, then you can follow them. Now, this example is with the Frederick Piguet 1185. The Chopard Imperial has that. That's its movement, is the Frederick Piguet 1185. However, the Vacheron Constantin 1137 has a Frederick Piguet 1185 base. It's a chronometer, obviously. All of these are chronometers. Chronographs, I mean. They're all chronographs. This Vacheron Constantin overseas chronograph. Now, one of the things about the overseas, the older ones have 8 horns on it. The newer ones have 6. The ones from 2016 on have 6 horns on it. This particular one has 8, so it's one of the older ones, but still, you find, it's got a Frederick Piguet and something that's more affordable, because the Vacheron Constantin overseas chronograph is not cheap. Same thing with the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak chronograph. It has the AP 2385, again has a Frederick Piguet 1185 base. Now, 2 from Blancpain. Now, Blancpain was actually, they owned Frederick Piguet's movement at one time, and then the movements owned Blancpain, and they were both bought by Swatch. Sort of an interesting route on that. One of them with a Frederick Piguet 1185 is called the 68F5. That's a Blancpain movement, and it's in the Blancpain L Evolution chronograph flyback. Now, the other one, another one also that's based on Frederick Piguet, that is Blancpain, is the F185, and it's the basis for much better known 50 Fathoms, Blancpain 50 Fathoms. This is you'll find in the 50 Fathoms chronograph flyback. Now, one of the interesting things that I discovered was is that here you have the caliber F185, the Blancpain caliber well, it's a Frederick Piguet caliber 185. We'll call it Blancpain because it was Frederick Piguet was renamed that. But anyway, here are 2 watches by Blancpain. They have the exact same movement. They're both chronographs, but boy, the prices are very different. The Blancpain 50 Fathoms flyback is $15,700. Now, their prices range around that amount. Some of them I think were as low as around $12,000, but that's a big difference. On the other hand, the Blancpain Lehman flyback chronograph, I found one for $5,350. So, it's a huge difference just because it's a 50 Fathoms instead of a Lehman. They're running on the same movement. So this is, knowing about movements, you can really both find a great watch plus you can save a few bucks too, quite a few in this case. Anyway, I'd be very interested to hear what you think, any ideas that you have along these lines. And this is an opportunity to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Side, the art and science of watch collection.